Welcome, beautiful souls, to the Beyond the Belief podcast. I'm your host, Lavender Loveway. With each episode, I invite you personally to join me as we explore a belief. It might be a widely held idea or a forgotten truth, or perhaps even one that feels unknown or deeply contested. This is a sanctuary for exploration, a place to absorb, listen, and learn with an open heart. We're shedding the heaviness of right and wrong and ascending into the lightness of greater connection and expansive knowledge. Today's episode is no exception. This is another precious opportunity to find a little gem or two of wisdom that helps you reweave your own tapestry of truth. Hello, my dear friends. In this episode, I would love to unpack the power of perspective. Recently, my guides had reminded me, Lavender, it's so important to seek perspective when you're making a decision, or you're trying to determine where to go, or you are feeling the pull of your oftentimes ego or conscious mind to get kind of sucked into the minutia of what is happening. And we have different entities, for lack of better words, different powers, different connections that we can leverage to gain the perspective. So it is not something that we are forced to figure out or do or find ourselves. So I'd like to share a couple of things that they shared with me to help me really root and ground down into. If I get into a crossroads or a place where I need to make a decision, I take a moment of pause and connect upwardly to that powerful perspective shift. And this allows for more ease and connective flow. My guides first shared, your ego or your human self is at ground zero. This is a very simple quote. But I think that it really provides the real perspective that our human self, and especially our ego, is right in the minutia, is right in the energy, is boots on the ground, right at the epicenter of what's happening. As Bashar affectionately shares, our ego is like a diving mask. It's the thing that gives clarity to diving into the water. And we're swimming kind of within whatever we're navigating. And again, this is mirroring that boots on the ground. It's the execution, as I've spoken about on previous episodes as well. This is where our ego resides. So if this is true, which I do believe, seeing that my guides shared this, and as I'm able to make these parallels with what Bashar is sharing, among many others, what does this mean for what kind of perspective we can shift to? So as a beautiful phrase I've begun to say to myself, shifting my altitude when challenges arise. Often by taking a step back from whatever it is that's challenging us, we can instead lean in and look more deeply into what is happening, the why behind it, and to start to open the doors to perspective. Perspective is what allows us to gauge the level of importance, the seriousness, the consequences, the true choices, and all of the options that are at our fingertips. And my guides reiterated on this. They shared, but you can only have true discernment by being able to take a step back and go upwards. And so for me, this has become my new mantra. If ever I am getting into some murky or some confusing waters, it is instead grounding myself within and going upwards. What I attempted to do was think about and map out the higher vantage points that we have access to. And I only want to highlight a few. And if you want to do this activity for yourself to better understand who you might be able to leverage, who you might be able to dial into or connect into, this would be wonderful. Because in these moments of feeling that friction, you can then instead anchor into the truth of all of the support and love you are connected to. So we've got our ego at ground zero. Okay. Getting into the boots on the ground execution. This is why I always say your ego is excellent at execution. But you need to give the direction to your ego. Your ego shouldn't be leading the course, leading the charge, leading the place or the strategy or the area. No, it is merely a tool, a resource to execute. So they are at ground zero. Above our ego, I was trying to think about how to objectively say this. So we're just going to go with these these points that I was able to kind of map out. Above that, let's say at 10,000 feet, is kind of our human observer seat. So the observer is definitely the connection with our higher self. But in us attempting to sit back into that seat, we might not fully be able to connect to it. And it is also still a little influenced by our human. So that observer seat is what I imagine at that 10,000 foot level. Then we've got above that, maybe at 100,000 feet, and I say this often, is our guides, is our team of guides. Those that are assisting us, helping us, directing us. They're the ones that have the full map of what we're doing, what we set out to do in this incarnation, as well as the different navigational things that are coming across our path. What might be the best next step for us to take? And they are guiding us from that higher perspective. I then envisioned above them our true higher self, our full soul, all fractals together, the I am, everything that is there. And I imagine them at, let's say, 1,000,000 feet. And they are in a capacity of seeing so much more vastness. They also can see our guides and our teams that are helping us. They can see our observer seat and go down and connect into it. They have just the full purview of not only the bigger picture and why you're there, but also the bigger picture in the all. And then what I envision above them is maybe Source or God or the universal consciousness. And let's say that's at 1,000,000,000 feet. So we've got basically our ego, the observer, the human observer seat, our guides, our higher self, and then we have Source. So here in this stack, obviously removing our ego, we have 4 higher perspectives that we can connect with. Any one of us can connect with. Now, if for you walk through maybe your guides, your team, and you realize that you have 10 guides that you frequently check in with, well, then you can add 10 to your list. Or if you have an ascended master that you can communicate with or connect with, or you have another divine entity or group of beings that you connect with, all of these connections just add to your higher perspective. And if instead of making decisions with our ego, which feels really easy, feels fast, feels like we're taking care of it, and we're going to get the answer right away, and we're just going to get this off our plate and be done. If you're feeling that much friction, there is a reason for it. Maybe it's communicating the gravity of the decision. Maybe it's communicating the importance for you to ground yourself. And in grounding yourself, you connect with these higher beings, with these higher levels of perspective that allow you to see the holistic picture and make the best decision for your unique life journey. Because I will say the discernment that helps us see that whole picture resides in those higher levels of perspective. I find personally in connecting with a higher perspective, whomever it may be, allows me to also determine what is actually real or what might actually be my fear. Because our fears can look pretty real, especially if we give them any energy or we give them a second thought. And they might not even be relevant or important in this specific situation. Another is understanding more about our ego. Sometimes our ego can get really overwhelmed because they are the boots on the ground. They are the one that's executing whatever we're wanting to do. Quite possibly the friction or the static that you're feeling could be a simple flare-up from your ego. Maybe they're hurt. Maybe there's something that actually needs our attention, our energy, our healing. And this thing that feels like friction is actually an illumination, an indicator. Again, if we go back to that instrument cluster, that indicator light telling us that there is a problem under the hood. This can also help us identify those things as they happen, instead of making assumptions, continuing forward, and essentially grabbing it and putting it into our body, grabbing it and living it out. which means we continue with that energetic influence into all the other decisions we make moving forward. So as a couple best practices that I have recently really dove into, but really started to massage these out. These were all recommendations from my guides. I've just been putting them essentially into that practice. The first thing is to recognize the emotion that I'm feeling. Often when I feel some sort of hesitation or up to leading to fear, it's because I don't know what to do, or there's too many options, or I'm feeling some sort of energy that I can't put my finger on. And so instead, I kind of start getting nervous or anxious, or it could be other influences that are happening in the situation. I got to make this decision fast. I got to do it now, because if I don't, this is going to happen. So there's some sort of pressure that can be around it. To me, when I feel whatever this friction is, fear or otherwise, this is my indicator to ground and go higher. Then taking a moment to breathe. And I know this sounds silly, maybe even a little more obvious, but being able to take a moment to breathe allows you to ground into your body and to come into the present moment, raising your vibration to empower you to more gracefully and swiftly connect with whomever you are seeking to connect with at a higher perspective. Then it's about meditation, sitting in silence, receive mode, connection. If I channel, then this would be getting into a channel mode and starting to notate or write down or receive the different possibilities. And sometimes when I'm doing this, it's very similar actually to how I host QHHT sessions when our conscious mind wants to do all the things. It's instead, hey, conscious mind, thank you so much for being so aware and receiving all of this information. The goal right now is for us to be a reporter. So as many things as you hear or sense or feel or whatever the emotion is, let's write it down. Let's capture it. And we can do the analysis at a later point. So this is about receive mode, connecting to the energies that be to receive. Then once I have all this information basically collected, it could be that I sit down with the recording, or I sit down with the notes that I jotted down, or maybe I did some automatic writing and things came through, or I started to receive intuitive taps and I wrote those all down. I then look at the picture and what's illuminating, and I also take a small moment to invite in an opposing view as well as a between view. An opposing view is pretty easy to determine. So if you're seeing a theme coming through, then what would be the opposite of that? That's the opposing view. But the between view is somewhere in between here. So it's a little of this and a little of that. And by allowing myself some space in this meditative, contemplative kind of energy, I then can jump back into channeling, jump back into receive mode, or start to listen to my heart. Because what happens in this moment when I get then into kind of more analytical mode of understanding that I've got these options, how do I feel? What would I like to do? I then can really start to feel pulled towards something. Because often when we are asking about something that challenges the beliefs that we hold, this can either open up our horizons or provide us with such incredible clarity as to what we are actually seeking or needing to do. This entire practice of contemplation, essentially, and connection with receiving a different perspective. So whether we're receiving this from the higher powers that be, whomever they are, as well as considering an opposing view, an opposite view, a between view, we start to see this issue or this challenge from multiple different angles. And we start to see it like this instead of like this. We can connect better to flow. We can allow things to be easier. Instead of seeing it firsthand as the glasses that you're wearing, you see it as an object separate from you. And you can be more objective. My guides share in their parting message as I was contemplating this, receiving this, they shared the benefit. You will confirm what is most important to you, or have an invitation or opportunity to adjust or completely change it. So my invitation for contemplation for you in this beautiful moment of now is to realize first that you are always in control. You are always in the driver's seat. You can, if you want, go basically down into the ego and you can run away with the ego. You can get into fear and overwhelm and unknown. Or you can shift your perspective and specifically shifting your altitude when challenges arise. So as these things pop up, these are invitations for us to shift our altitude. Maybe this is our indicator that we are a little too close to whatever the challenge is. The challenge has become the glasses that we're looking at the world through instead of the object or the thing or the place that is hosting that challenge that is separate from you, that you can see from all angles. And my friends, this can be done with anything. It is all up to you. So as you contemplate this message, invite yourself to a place where you can see and invite in the connection that empowers your greater vision, empowers your greater visibility, as well as connects you with the divine flow for ease, for allowing. I will share very transparently, it has changed my daily existence. It is a practice. It is not something that, at least from firsthand experience, I could flip the switch and just all the time always do this new practice. No, it is become a practice, but it has become a loving one because I am starting to realize that everything in my life experience can be about having this perspective instead of putting the glasses on and feeling like I'm trapped within it. May you change and improve and ascend your altitude with all challenges as they arise.